We've been hearing so much about that Italian cruise disaster that is happening off the coast of Italy. We've been hearing so much about the captain, but we wanted to turn to somebody who really knows what the responsibilities of a captain might be, especially since this captain now is apparently, at this point, as far as we know, under house arrest. Rob Almeida is editor of gCaptain.com in Annapolis, Maryland. It's a website for maritime professionals. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it.
So was this captain wrong? I mean, on the surface, all of us who just go on cruises, but we don't actually drive the ships. I mean, it doesn't sound like this guy wanted to be involved in getting people off of the boat, and as we hear, going down with a ship.
Yeah, well, he took charge of the ship, and as a captain of a vessel, he's inexplicably tied to the responsibility of the ship and the passengers, and the eventual salvage or basically the ship as itself as an asset. And he doesn't really have that option to relinquish his command. I mean, that's what he signed up for.
What we're hearing from these tapes that came out yesterday, basically, Rob, was, hey, the Coast Guard saying, are you guys all right? Oh, yeah, just a little malfunction. All right. And then the next thing they admit, well, we're kind of like tipping over and we've got real issues. And the Coast Guard is saying, what? What? Are you kidding me? I mean, it sounded like there was, wrongdoing here from the get-go.
Absolutely. And that's really what it comes down to. That's where people died. At the end of the day, the ship ran aground, and they call it some sort of electrical malfunction, or they basically lie to the crew essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And and they from what I understand, they delayed about an hour in really reporting this to the Coast Guard. And meanwhile, the ship's taking on water, and they're trying to ballast on the opposite side of the ship to keep the ship upright, essentially. And
your responsibility is to notify the Coast Guard immediately when something goes south, correct?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, as soon as you start taking on water, as soon as you realize that you're in a serious situation, absolutely. I mean, the captain didn't know immediately, obviously, what had happened, probably, but if you're taking on water, if you've got engine rooms flooding, absolutely. Absolutely.
We're talking with Rob Almeida. He's editor of gCaptain.com in Annapolis, Maryland, a website for maritime professionals. You know what this sounds like, Rob? And tell me if this sounds correct to you. What happened on 9/11? Well, our firefighters went in to those buildings. They didn't run from them. It sounds like what you're telling me is a ship's captain's job is very much like those firefighters at the World Trade Center. You don't want to go in, but you've got to go in. That's what you signed up for.
Absolutely. I mean, he put on his captain's hat when he stepped on board the ship in wherever they left port from, and and then the ship runs aground, and all of a sudden it's not a ship, and he's like, "Oh, I guess I'm not the captain anymore." That's false.
You don't get to make up those rules.
No, you're all of a sudden you are not only are you the ship's captain, but you just changed job titles. You're the on-scene commander. You're in charge of getting everybody off the ship, verifying the evacuation, verifying everybody's accounted for, and then you're responsible to wait there until you're properly relieved by someone who is qualified to take charge. That's you don't just leave a $500 million ship sitting on the submerged, half submerged, with everybody's personal belongings on board, and by the way, a casino, full of money. That's
not to mention, goodness knows how many people fighting for their lives.
Exactly.
Rob Almeida, editor for gCaptain.com in Annapolis, Maryland, a website for maritime professionals. Thank you so much for being with us and your perspective.
Appreciate it. Thanks.